Welcome back to another episode of Rooted in Movement, the podcast. And I'm excited to be back here now. We are on part 3 of our series on the pelvic floor, specifically on pelvic floor health for men. So if you remember that back in part 2 on our pelvic floor conversation with men, I talked about how I think it's bullshit that socially and societally pelvic floor health issues in men are frequently being ignored, right? Or they're being buried under this heavy blanket of an ego that I think a lot of us men tend to encapsulate, right? We tend to have that, and it really does push down a lot of the feelings that we typically have in that pelvic region because of how we think other people are going to be viewing us, right? And I feel that to be a high performing man, you need to have a high performing pelvic floor, okay? And it doesn't matter if that means high performance in out in the field or in the weight room or even in the boardroom. That pelvic floor literally serves as the foundation of our strength in every single one of those areas. So that means that you actually need to be comfortable with confronting some of these more socially taboo markers for pelvic floor issues. And these are things like low libido and erectile dysfunction that we as men often feel too proud or threatened to openly discuss when there actually is a problem. And I call bullshit on that too, right? Because as a PT, all these socially taboo markers that we know as limiting factors are really indicative of really bigger issues that affect performance. And we talk all day long about performance on the field or in the weight room or in the boardroom. But in this specific podcast, I'm going to shift the focus. And I'm going to be talking about performance in the bedroom. Performance in this area is something I think every single one of you guys or you men are going to be very, very interested in, right? Because pelvic pain and performance issues don't happen overnight. They are neurologically driven, they're environmentally reinforced, and they're psychologically propagated, okay? Your thoughts, your behaviors, your lifestyle choices, and your mindset for that matter really dictate your perception of the sensations that you feel in your body. And in this case, your pelvic floor region more specifically, right? So these feelings are essentially your brain telling you that something needs to change. It's calling attention to that area, right? So the disconnected loved one, the uninspiring job, the lack of purpose, and the daily grind that you put your body through, these are all variables that add stress to our larger system, our larger human body system, right? So your body is constantly trying to adjust for these different factors. And if you listen, it's going to give you the answers, I promise you. We just have to be aware enough to listen to it and understand what it's trying to tell us. Sometimes these signals aren't obvious though, right? And other times you may neglect them to satisfy your ego, right? We call this like a benign neglect, right? We push them away because we think that we're either too good or we're better than what we're feeling, or we just completely disregard it. But like I said before, awareness is key. So if you're feeling things like body aches and joint pain, maybe it's time that you took a break from your high intensity training program and spent more time performing like a rebuild by exploring movement patterns your body and your nervous system aren't accustomed to in order to remove a layer of that physical stress, right? The body aches, the joint pains, it could be a sign of too much physical stress along with all the emotional, psychological stuff as well, right? So if you're having spasms in your pelvic floor region, this is definitely going to be more indicative of some of that psychological, that emotional pain. Premature ejaculation, low libido, these are all the same type of things, these same types of symptoms, we can call them, right? So maybe it's time you reflected more so on your relationship with sex, right? So do you become anxious? Do you ruminate on past experiences? Do you overanalyze your performance capabilities? Okay. All of these can be underlying factors, right? Those limiting factors that we talked about to these sexual problems that could be causing pain in the pelvic region. Okay. Anxiety and depression usually coincide with pelvic pain. This is well founded and well supported in literature. And quite honestly, who could blame you, right? After all, we are talking about your manhood here, right? This is one thing, at least the one thing every guy's ever told that actually defines your masculinity. We think so. So we place a lot of weight on it. When something goes wrong, we can develop a lot of anxiety and depression around it. And men are taught that their masculinity is being defined by being macho, being tough, being strong, being stoic. Everything we talked about in the previous podcast, don't cry and, you can't express emotion. Don't be soft. Talk about really stressful roles like this could become overwhelming. So trying to abide by those quote unquote standards every day it's enough to make any man anxious, right? So throw in these catastrophizing thoughts surrounding a problem with your plumbing downstairs, and it's no wonder why many men feel really timid about their ability to perform. Okay. So, in order to start battling past this, we actually need to start training our muscles, but not our physical muscles. We need to start training your confidence muscle. Because in order to combat the thoughts and the feelings that lead to pelvic pain and dysfunction, we need to train the brain. Okay, so just like you can beef up your biceps, you can also strengthen your confidence muscle through repetition and progressive overload. It happens via the same means. So by shifting your focus and your attention and your intention, you can begin to change the way that you feel, which will then alter the current trajectory of pelvic pain and probably even your goal-oriented strategy during sex. So if we are very much just focused on orgasm and focused on that big release, that is also going to be a contributing factor to a lot of these confidence issues with our sexual performance that could be leading to a lot of the shame and the anxiety and the depression that we feel around our sexual performance. You can see how it turns into this vicious cycle. So the question you need to ask yourself is, are you being intentional with your lovemaking, with yourself and your partner? Okay. So a great way to reduce both tension and pain in the pelvic floor muscles while simultaneously improving with your connection with your partner is through your breath. Okay. Breathing and different breathing exercises are a great way to tune inward, but then build that connection internally with your own nervous system. We get to actually change our nervous system with our breath. So one thing I'd like to personally do is start each and every morning with a mindful minute and some breath work. Okay. So utilize the breath to bring you back into your body and bring you back into a parasympathetic state. This is going to help improve your visualization and help you enter into a flow state, and breathing deeply into your pelvic region specifically will actually help relax those muscles by allowing them to go through that excursion, right, to lengthen out and to relax and reduce any tension. So along with helping to reduce pain, your breath is also going to give you the ability to improve your ability to last longer in bed, which is something I think that a lot of men are probably wanting help with these days, because it's really kind of sad that the average time a man can actually last in bed is 3 minutes in this country, which is that's really no fun for anyone. So what many men say, or at least come to me with, is they try to think of something different while having sex, like thinking of baseball, your grandmother, right? But the old method of thinking about baseball and maybe even cold showers while having sex, it doesn't work. And here's why. It's because it shifts your focus away from your partner, which is then going to break that intimate connection with them. So instead, we need to build in a consistent practice with your breath. Conscious breathing during sex is going to give you the opportunity to slow things down, control the rhythm, to set the pace, and actually allow your body to stay in more of that parasympathetic state prior to reaching the gigantic sympathetic explosion of climax. Okay, so the more parasympathetic in that rest and digest that you can keep your body, the more control you're going to have, and the more you'll be able to enjoy and feel the ecstatic energy that you're actually creating with your partner. Okay, so we're going to go through a very specific breathing exercise here for the pelvic floor. The way I like to have people start by doing this is flying flat on their back with their knees bent and their feet flat on the floor. This is actually going to help relax your midsection, relax your abdominals, and relax your pelvic floor. And what I like to do is have one hand up on the heart, so usually the left hand, and then the right hand for you men is actually going to go down into grundle. Okay, and what that means is it's going to be going between your testicles and your butthole. Okay, so that little area called your perineum. You're going to place your finger there. All right. And that area is actually your pelvic floor. And when we breathe, we should actually feel that pelvic floor move. So when we inhale, we should feel the pelvic floor actually push out into our finger. And we exhale, that pelvic floor should lift up off our finger. Okay, so if you're holding your finger there, I want you to take a big, deep breath in, inhaling it down the front of your body, so down your sternum, down into your belly, and then pushing down into the pelvic floor, into that area between your sit bones, between your hips. Okay, And I want you to feel that air push out into your finger. Okay. And don't worry if you can't get it right away. With deeper breaths, you're going to begin to be able to feel it here over time. Okay. It just takes some practice, especially if your pelvic floor isn't used to lengthening, because that's what it needs to do. And you can consciously drive your air down there. And the more air you can push down into that pelvic floor, the more you're going to be able to get it to lengthen. Okay, so as you inhale, you're thinking about the air moving down the front of your body into the pelvic region, pushing out into your finger. And then as you exhale, that air is going to move up your sacrum, up your spine, and out the crown of your head. Okay? As you're exhaling, I want you to think about lifting your balls and squeezing your butthole. That is going to activate your pelvic floor muscles. Okay? And that's going to allow the pelvic floor muscles to go through the other end of the excursion, which is an ascension or a lifting action. Okay. So just to go through this again, inhaling down the front of your body into the pelvic floor, feeling it push out into your finger, exhaling, lifting your balls, squeezing your butthole, and imagining that air moving up your spine and out the crown of your head in this circular fashion. Okay. And this is a great way to start your mornings. Okay, taking yourself through 10 to 20 of these breaths where you're breathing in deep, full, big inhales, pushing that air all the way down to your pelvic floor, and then exhaling, pushing that air up your spine, out the crown of your head. You're doing some circular breathing here. You're lengthening out your inhales and your exhales when you're getting into more of this parasympathetic state. And the biggest piece is that you're building your connection with your pelvic floor, because that contraction is what you're going to need to actually control your ejaculation, which is going to help you last longer in bed, because it's going to be able to cinch off your urethra and be able to hold back that ejaculate, allowing you to maintain an erection and keep going, right? And keep feeling pleasure. Okay. Speaking of pleasure, masturbation is also a really great way to practice breathing, like to practice this breathing exercise with stimulation and to improve your ability to control your climax. Okay. So give yourself time to feel your own body, and eventually you're going to be able to feel that of your partners that much better. Okay. You need to be able to feel what it's like to take yourself to the edge so you know where that's at when you're working with your partner. So this is going to help strengthen that confidence muscle also in your brain, reducing your performance anxiety and additional stress you've maybe previously associated with sex, because now you feel like you have more control. Now you feel stronger, okay? Because now you know what you feel inside your own body. It's creating a lot of that mind-body connection, that whole embodiment practice that we talked about before. So what does it feel like around orgasm? And in fact, orgasm and ejaculation are actually two separate events, right? So orgasm occurs just before you blow your load. So as you approach orgasm, focus on that breath, right? Breathe into your pelvic region. And as the pleasurable sensations increase, control that energy by exhaling, contracting your pelvic floor, as we talked about, and sending that energy up your spine and through the crown of your head. So after some of these solo training sessions, you're going to be able to begin to experience really mind-blowing full body orgasmic bliss with your partner without losing your ability to maintain or get an erection. So essentially what you're doing here, folks, is just taking the energy that's building up in your penis, building up in that pelvic floor area, and you're circulating it throughout your body so it doesn't shoot out your cock. Okay. That's essentially what we're training here. Okay. So yes, you're training the physical nature of the muscles around the pelvic floor, but then you're also training your ability to control energy by utilizing your breath. Okay. So the question I always get though is, how long does it actually take to get better at this stuff, right? Well, getting in the reps is going to be key here, right? Consistency with training will begin rewiring your nervous system. Okay. This is something you need in order to build into your day if you want to see the value actually unfold. So do you want a competitive edge? I'm going to let you in on a little secret here. This next exercise I'm going to talk to you guys about is actually a really great way to build competency with control of your pelvic floor throughout each day. So you're going to capitalize on your daily urination schedule, okay? So using every single opportunity that you have to drain the main vein, practice controlling your pelvic floor, right? And this is actually a great way to build strength in and around the pelvic floor as well. So while standing in front of a urinal or in front of a toilet, I actually want you to perform a heel raise. So coming up on your toes. This is actually going to limit your ability to contract your glutes. You can't squeeze your glutes when you're up on your toes like that, right? So And all your focus is then going to be going onto your pelvic floor muscles. So once you begin peeing, okay, once you've got a steady stream started, I want you to take a big, deep breath in and hold back your flow, like cinch it off, okay? So if you have strong pelvic floor muscles, you shouldn't get any leftover dribbling as you cinch that hose of yours, right? So then as you exhale, you're actually going to push out more urine. And you can continue this process roughly 3 to 5 breaths-ish until you've emptied your bladder for each time that you're going to go to the bathroom. And this is a really, really great way to train the muscles around your urethra, which are the same ones that hold back your pee, which are also the same ones that control your ejaculation. Okay. And what you're going to notice is that as time goes on, you're going to be able to get more and more of these little cinches every time you have to go pee. So every time you have to take a bathroom break, you can get more and more of these cinches off, so you're able to close off that urethra at a more of a moment's notice and have more control of it. So it's a great training tool for that. So wherever you fall really on this, sexual performance continuum, it's really never too late to begin training, right? So just like rehabbing from an injury or improving top end performance, the process is really, really still going to be the same. I need you to take a step back and reflect on the basics. That's what this is. This is just the basics. Stuff that we really don't spend a lot of time on. Because at the end of the day, you don't need a little blue pill or numbing wipes, right? These are just temporary fixes that are covering up deeper issues. Instead, look in the mirror. What does your reflection reveal? Are you actually in touch with yourself? Are you in touch with your partner? Are you getting enough sleep? Right? What are all the possible sources of controllable stress that you can actually control and start to make changes there? Stand in front of that very same mirror and visualize confidence. Tell yourself you're a sexy beast. Maybe even give yourself like a little growl, grrr, right? You are a man, and it's your responsibility to take control of this because no one is coming to save you with it. If you have problems down there, if you're not where you want to be from a sexual performance standpoint, you have the power. At the end of the day, you do have the power within you to unlock higher sexual performance that is more deeply connected with a greater range of intimacy. You just need to be willing to make the change. Okay. So this concludes our mini series here on the pelvic floor and sexual performance and pelvic floor health for men. So I really hope that you all found this information, one, interesting, but two, useful and very valuable, right? So once again, if you know of anyone who needs to hear this, please pass it on and help spread the love. Also, please go ahead and subscribe to this podcast. Leave a 5-star review. All this really helps us reach more ears and get more people moving better and enhancing their quality of life. So until next time, bye. I am Thor.